This is the President McCormack Podcast with your host, Mark McCormack.
Dude, I used to consume, in my 20s, dude, I would read any self-help book, any, right? And then I kind of moved into more autobiographies or biographies on people like the Rockefellers, you know, Steve Jobs, all those kind of boys. And I felt like I was getting more out of that than I was anything.
Do you know Russell Brunson or heard of him?
Oh, yeah.
He just started a new group called the Secret Society.
Mm.
And it's all about, I'll have to send you the link. I just did it. I bought the stuff and I'm just listening to the stuff now. It's basically, he's creating a library of Napoleon Hill, like all the old,
the big boys,
all the boys, like from the 20s, or like all those guys. Basically, he's buying, I think he spent like $10 million on books.
Oh, wow.
And what he's doing is he's building a library or a museum.
Oh, okay.
Dude, he did it. He's in a museum where he sold seats in this thing where it's going to be a conference center. He sold seats that's your seat for $1 million. And people are buying them. Like Tony Robbins is going to speak. Like it's one of his guys. Like he's getting guys like that to come in and speak at the meetings. And if you buy the seat, you have access to it.
Right.
So there's guys spending $1 million for a seat. Basically, that's how he's funded the museum. Building this huge museum. That's all these books are going to be in it.
Oh, that's crazy.
It's the thing that's about Russell Brunson. This cool thing is he's a Utah guy, but lives in Boise now.
Oh, really? Boise.
How
did he make his money?
Well, ClickFunnels is.
Oh, okay. That's how I know.
If you've heard of ClickFunnels, it's all that's where.
I've taken one of his courses actually.
I have too. That's how he made his money, and then he sold it for probably millions, billions, whatever it was. And then now this is what he's focusing on. But then he bought a company called Dan Kennedy, who's Magnetic Marketing. It's a huge nationwide one of the probably world-renowned marketing guys. He bought that company.
Yeah.
And does that now. And then anyway, he's in Boise because he grew up in Utah, grew up in Salt Lake, wrestled, amazing wrestler, wrestled at BYU, went on his mission. While his mission, they shut the wrestling program down. So Boise State had a program, went to Boise, finished his career in Boise, and then.
Oh, nice. Good for him, man. That's cool.
Pretty cool.
I tell you, I had an epiphany like a year ago. It's pretty rare. And I was like, I want to take every self-help book and just cliff note them all and just build one big book.
Love it.
Because one of the things that drives me crazy about self-help books, I've talked about it a few times in the podcast, but I feel like, and I'm actually writing a book right now with some ghostwriters, but you have to get to about 250 pages or the market won't buy your book. And so even if you have 80 pages of like solid, clear and concise information that would really, really, really help, if you don't take that to 250 pages,
they don't buy them.
It's unmarketable. And so, and the reason, and what you do to fill that up with is just stories, right? So you're taking a principle, then you're talking about it for like 4 pages, right? Same thing over and over and over. So when I first met with my ghostwriter, so I have I have a senior editor and, lower editor, a couple ghostwriters. And it was interesting because I was like, listen, I don't care about selling this book. And they're like, okay, it's kind of odd. And I'm like, I want it to be clear and concise, and I want it to be exactly what I want it to be. I want it just to be information only, no fluff, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, okay, Mark, because, they work for me. So it's like, whatever I say, they're going to do. And after we outlined the entire thing and started getting the first chapters in place, the editor came back to me and she's like, you need to expand this to 250 pages because we're going to go market this and get a publisher to pick it up because it's going to be, the content here should be really, really good. It's an investing book, but it's I don't even have a title for it yet because we don't know what to call it, but it's my idea with this book is that anyone off the street, one of your kids, anybody, right, can read this book. And at the end of it, I want them to say to themselves, oh, I could manage my own money. Why would I have someone else manage my money? I have the confidence to go and do it now. So we go just deep enough into all the asset classes that people can understand it for themselves, but not so deep that you get so damn technical. You know what I mean? That it's like, ugh.
Well, and I love that because I'll tell you where I'm at right now with my kids because my baby's 17 now, and my oldest was 20. So Talmadge's 23 and Connor's 20. So 4 kids in there.
Yeah.
I wished I would have known now what I knew 5 years ago, and I would have had all my kids going through this stuff right now.
Yeah.
One of the big things I'm doing right now is mindset training. Like I'm with a group, ironically enough, the guy's here in Utah, but he does it nationwide, mostly for contractors. Mm-hmm. But I literally spend, 10 hours a week in studying just mindset and getting my mind right.
Yeah.
Dude, I wish I'd have known that. If I would have had every one of my kids through that. So what I'm saying is I freaking love that, even at a kid level, because I'd have every one of my kids read that and study that. They'd be so much farther ahead.
Dude, I'm writing the book for my kids, right? And it's like all the information that I want to pass on to them. So last year I was in Denver. I was on an elliptical, right? Like in the morning trying to keep the fat off me. And I was like, I'm watching the show Lucy. And I've always thought, I'm like, man, it'd be kind of cool to live forever, right? But like, it's not possible. But then in that movie, it has a concept in it that says, well, you do live forever, right? You pass your DNA onto your children, but you also pass your knowledge onto them. And that is literally how you live forever, right? As long as the generations will go down. And I started thinking about that because then you go back in posterity, right? And it's like your father and his father and his father and his father. And all this stuff going back, all the sacrifices and different choices that they made all along the way brought you to where you're at now. So Nixon and I were having a conversation. You know, Nixon's 12 now. And I was like, buddy, like you should marry the girl of your dreams, find her. It's the most important choice you're ever going to make, and have tons of kids. And he's like, why? And I was like, because I earned that for you. And your grandfather earned it for me. And now you're going to be in an affluent position where you can just pour into all these kids and grow our posterity, bigger and bigger and bigger.
It's powerful, man.
Yeah. And it was kind of fun because he was like, okay, Dad, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, it's up to you, right? How many kids you have and you and your wife, you can choose, but you actually have the option to have as many as you want.
See, and that's what I think that, ironically enough, this Russell Brunson thing I listened to yesterday was talking about, and part of my mindset, we have this, especially in Utah, I think, because we're, it's better with the church, we grow up and so conservative and it's not okay to be wealthy. No, it's great to be wealthy because what you can do with that wealth is powerful. And that is exactly it. Yeah. If you can pay your bills and have more kids, what a blessing that is.
Yeah.
Right? Especially to have a good father and a good mother and to be able to bring good kids into the car. But unfortunately it does take money to do that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And so what a blessing that is to be able to be blessed with that abundance and that wealth to be able to do those things.
I was just talking to my friend yesterday, Matt, on the podcast, and we were kind of going back and forth on kind of these concepts, right? It's like, how much should you pour into your kids? Can you how much wealth can you?
It's a balance for sure.
Because you don't want to do the trust fund kid thing, right? So it is your responsibility as the dad and the mom too, but really for us, because we're both the dads, you have to teach those kids how to manage their wealth, right? From a little age all the way up until, I kind of have this thing with my kids where by the time they're 25 is when I want to turn into more of a mentor / friend, more than like straight up father, like you're doing things wrong kind of thing. That's kind of my goal. But I teach them to grow their net worth every year. So do you pay your kids? The whole thing?
A little bit, but basically
so I've been doing that for years.
I
right?
should have. It's something I should have done a long time ago.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Oh well. But I've been doing it for years and years, right? So I take their money or that money that I give them every year, and then I put into the stock market. And so I've been growing their net worth for years, right? And it's funny because my youngest, who's 8, right, probably been doing it since she was like 1 or 2. I really can't remember. By the time she's 25, it's going to be worth a chunk of change, right? But I want them, so as they turn 16 and start working, right? 18, get out of high school, start really working and kind of growing like their life, right? I want them to really focus on growing their net worth every year. Because it doesn't matter how much cash you get per se, as long as you can operate. You just got to grow that net worth.
So powerful.
And then I figured and I tell them right now, I've been told Brea, I was like, you have, I know what she has, probably a couple $100,000 in this account, right? And it's like, I will give this to you if you earn it. And part of you earning that is when you make money, you put it into this stuff. You invest it into there. You can play with some of your money. You need to do that. But you also need to invest.
That's powerful, man. I love it. I absolutely love that. I think the problem for me is, being friend to friend candidly here is I didn't start making money till about 2 years ago. And so I always made a good wage. I mean, look at the house I live in. I did okay, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't make money until really about a year or 2 ago. And so I wasn't able to do some of these things that I've always known I wanted to, but it's all ironic. I don't think it is that I got my mind right.
Yeah.
Believing that we could do this, not settling. And it's just like the Profit First book. I don't know if you've read that one. That's another really good. It's like, it's just pay yourself. Like I never did that. I was just investing in the company and just kept buying more stuff. My dad and I never took money.
Yeah.
And so now it's like, the mindset shifted, and then I can start doing stuff like that.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
So powerful.
So
love it.
I'm really excited for my kids in the fact that I'm not sure all the rules because I'm a partner to venture fund, right? And so you have to be an accredited investor to put money into it. And I want my kids, I'd love if I can get some of their money in there by like 20, 21 years old. Because then, by the time they're 28, they'll get their first venture payout, or maybe 25.
I haven't even thought about that.
Oh, yeah.
See, the problem is I don't have that. Right now, truthfully, what I'm paying my kids right now is just enough basically to cover college, really.
Yeah.
Because we were kind of helping out. I always said I was never going to pay for college because I paid for it myself. And so I said, I'm never paying. Yeah. Well, I'm paying for 3 kids in college right now. Now, fortunately, it's all cheap. But anyway, basically, that's what I'm doing. So we're basically just paying them out of the company enough to pay for their college.
Yeah.
Right now,
it makes sense.
It's a start.
Yeah.
But
hey, them graduating with no debt is a massive heads up.
And the cool thing too is my oldest, I don't know if you know Talmadge very well, but he's the one playing down at SUU, and things should work out where he actually graduates with his master's because he just finished his junior year, just last final yesterday. So, but he's got.
Did he do a mission?
Yeah, well, sort of.
Oh, did he come home early or something? Okay.
Well, yeah, he was during COVID.
Oh yeah.
He's an interesting story. Long story short, he was not only a no, but a hell no to a mission. There was no way he was going. Good religious kid, but just was not. That wasn't him.
Yeah.
And decided to play football first, was down there, and then whatever reason, like, I'm going.
Yeah.
And had nothing to do with us, like nothing. It was just him. But then he got hurt and had to have his surgery and then another one, and it was a pretty big deal to the point where he tried to turn in his papers, and Dr. Cooley did his surgery and wrote a letter, says by this date he's 100% healthy, he's free and clear, he can serve. The stake president said no at first, and then we got another thing, and then he turned it in, he said, okay, I'll submit it. The first presidency letter from the brethren. Thank you for your willingness to serve, but you're not fit to serve. Crazy.
Gee, just because of the surgery?
It was a pretty big deal though, because he had to have a cartilage replacement, so it was a pretty big deal. It was like that big. It was a big surgery, and he had to have some ongoing care with it. And anyway, obviously they knew better than us, so he continued to get it. They finally got cleared. He went out. He was out for 3 months, and his knee just went.
Oh, jeez.
The cartilage had lifted, the graft had lifted, so they had to come home and graft it, and then they had another surgery on his shoulder, and so then it was like. And it was during COVID.
Time to call it. Well, I was just going to say, I'm like, him being 23 and being a junior and then started mission, I was like, this dude is knocking out like 25 credits a semester. But
I know, that's why. Yeah. But because of the surgery so he only served for 3 months, but between the surgeries and the mission, it was like a full-time mission. Like he got back to school. So yeah. So yes.
Yeah.
But yes, and he'll be 24 in September. So by the time
how does he feel about only serving for 3 months? Is he?
You know what's interesting? I had a hard time with it at first, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm being vulnerable here, right? Throw whatever this you want on. I don't care. But it was hard. It was hard as a dad to have this kid that can come home, and because the perception, that's one of the problems in Utah. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but one of the problems we have in Utah is we're so judgmental on so many things. And I think part of it was that with me. But then I remember, never forget, he sat in my office one day and he's like, Dad, I'm not going to go back. And I'm like, what do you mean you're not going to go back? He's like, I've prayed about it and I know I did my mission and I don't need to go back. I'm like, son, there's no way the Lord's going to tell you that you're done. And he looked at me and tears streaming down his face. And like, I've never felt the Spirit so strong. And he's like, Dad, I know I've done what I need to do. And I was just like, it hit me like a ton of bricks, like the sky, just like, okay.
That's a good moment.
It was powerful, man. It was like good for him and I. And it taught me that my kids, the whole teach kids correct principles, let them govern themselves, nothing to the church, just in general. Yeah. That was one of those moments to me like, okay.
Well, you know what's funny about the church, honestly? There's so many good things in it. I have this conversation a lot, right? Because people, I'm a loud personality, right? Like, it's just is what it is. And so when I meet people out of the state, and I'm also, obviously I'll talk to anybody and they'll be like, oh, you Mormon? I'm like, no, I used to be though. And they're like, oh, what happened, And I'm like, nothing. I just kind of turned the light switch off. And like, people have a really hard time, like, wrapping their mind around that, right? Either way. Because, if you grow up Catholic, you never really stop unless you join another religion. Yeah, you just can stop going, right?
The church is definitely a little different that way, because you kind of need to be all in or all out. I mean, I would agree. But one thing I think I love and respect you, and I've about you, Mark, is that it may not be your thing right now, but the principles are there, the background's there. You're amazing about it. You're respectful. like, we need more guys like you. We need guys that aren't going to church that are like you, because it's almost like you're hot or cold in the church, man. And I hate that. Like, there's a middle ground there.
Yeah.
You can go and not hate the church. You can go and not blast social media about how bad it is.
Right.
But then also you can go and not be judgmental.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's really hard.
Well, it's funny for me because I've had people like basically talk crap about the church, and I'm like, no, you don't understand it then. Like, like, what do you mean? But aren't you out of it? And I'm like, yeah, but like, I loved my mission. I grew up in Highland, Utah. It's 98% LDS-ish. I don't know the actual number.
But it's very strong.
But it was the safest place to grow up. It was an amazing childhood. You can't repeat it. It was a childhood through the 90s, right? It was awesome. I was analog to begin with, digital at the end of it. You know what I mean? And I would be a liar if I didn't admit the good stuff that was inside of the church.
Amen.
For me. And you know my family a little bit. It's like, if you come in my house, the only thing in my house other than me having tats, right, is I don't have a picture of the temple up. We look as LDS as anybody else in the neighborhood,
Yeah, but you know what's interesting about tats? I think that's even different now than it was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, let's be a spade a spade. Of course, it's not, the church doesn't love it.
Yeah.
But it's different.
Yeah.
Like, if you walk into Sacrament with a short sleeve and tats on, I mean, I don't think people even
Care
say
anymore?
anything.
Yeah.
5 years ago, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Right? It's
When I
amazing
was
how
growing
much-
up, and when we were both growing up, we're pretty close. How old are you, by the way?
40, 46, 47?
Yeah, so I'm 42. We're close enough in
Close
age, right?
enough.
It's like, dude, tats were a major taboo when I was young.
It didn't happen.
Yeah.
And if you did, you were
Yeah.
judged.
You know what's funny, actually, is my grandfather had 2 tattoos. He had a big 2 bicep tattoos, basically, right? And he got them when he was 16 or 17. It's hard to tell because he basically snuck into the British Navy way early. He lied about his age and all this stuff, right? And he's telling these stories in his 80s, so who knows what's true, right? But he lived in 96, but I always saw him, and I mean, they're muffled, and he was like, he lived at 96 years old, right? But like, they were still badass, if you know the truth, right? He'd come out with his, I used to wash his motorhome for like, he paid me like $100 to like, this 5th wheel and like take me like all day. And he'd come out with his garment top on, 2 tats, just like, how's it going, son? I'm like, good, Gramps. Just knocking stuff out. And I remember my mom a little bit, actually, was always a little judgmental about those tattoos. And I'm like, just chill out about it. Like, what's he supposed to do? Get them removed?
I'll be honest with you, Mark. When I first moved in the neighborhood, when we first met each other, I probably was the guy that was so judgmental of stuff like that.
Were you?
What changed for me, truthfully, this is going to sound, was, I don't know if you remember President Howell or if you knew him very well. Was the state president, the prior state president. He was an absolute rule follower to the T. I mean, but he was also taught me a lot about not being judgmental. And I served on the high council with him for a couple of years, and that was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
So I depending on how you want to look at it, was involved in about 12, 15 disciplinary councils in about 18 months. It was just crazy.
Oof.
Some of them were coming back. But that was the most powerful, humbling. To me, that's when the atonement became real.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't about church. It wasn't about rules. It was about the Savior.
Yeah.
And it was pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Anyway.
In that same vein, honestly, right? Like I've had people ask me, and they were very genuine and authentic when they asked me this, right? They're like, well, if you've left the church, are you worried about Judgment Day, kind of thing? And when I was first asked that, I was like, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. So I thought about it a lot, and I was like, okay, if I stand in front of God one day and he's not going to ask me rhetorical questions, right? I think he's above that. He's not going to be like, well, why did you leave the church? You know what I mean? Like, he knows the answer to it. And so I can just see, when I actually stand in front of Judgment Day, I think the only question he's going to ask is, how well did you live your life? How well did you treat my other kids? That type of stuff. And I'm like, I think I've done a really good job of that, throughout my life. And I want to be that person. And there's so many things in life that are like hard to understand or don't make sense or illogical. And then, even inside Christianity, right? There's 1,000 versions of it, And based off of our knowledge, when you stand in front of him one day, and plus he's your father in pure form, the way that I view God, right? And I just, your kids, they come up to you and you don't even care how they live their life. You just want them to be better. You want them to progress.
Quote unquote F up, like,
yeah.
you still love them.
Yeah.
Right.
You almost want them to, right? Because you can't understand the good in life if you don't understand the bad.
Interesting. That's an perspective. I think the only thing that I love what you said, and I agree with 99.9% of it.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that I've not been able to grasp yet with that is, what about the covenants we've made with him?
Mm-hmm.
And in theory, and if we're not doing certain things, then those covenants that we made at one point in time, we've broken.
Absolutely.
So where does that come into it? And that's my only, but here's the beauty of it. Guess what? It's not my decision. It's not my choice.
Right.
Right. It's not your choice.
Yeah.
It's him and how he's going to handle those things.
Yeah.
That's the only time when people kind of say what you say, because I agree with you.
Yeah.
But that's my only question. What about that aspect of it?
It's absolutely something to consider, right? And I mean, and I'm an open book, right? Me.
Well, that's why I love you.
Yeah. I mean, I broke those covenants, right? Essentially. Well, I had my records removed, so however you want to look at it, right? It's like, and it's funny too, because when I say to people, I've had my records removed, people are like, and I'm like, no, listen, I don't want to be wishy-washy or gray. I just want to be black and white.
But the thing is I love about you, though, is I know where you stand.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it. And it's refreshing.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm glad you see me.
I think that you're one of the, I think you're a little bit more rare. And I mean it as a compliment.
Yeah.
But guys that can still get it, still understand the gospel, still get it. I still think that you're just not, I don't know, how do I say this? You're not a guy that's going out trashing it.
Yeah, not at all.
I don't know if I've ever had a conversation with you ever that a mission hasn't come up some way or another.
Oh, really?
And not in a bad way.
Yeah, I talk about it all the time, yeah.
And I think it's because of what it does for us.
Yeah.
Bro, our missions, no, it's not the same today. Let's just be honest.
That's true.
But doing what we did when we were in our early 20s, like,
where'd you go?
It was hard. I served in Michigan, so I was just in the
Okay,
States.
cool.
So
Yeah.
a little different than like you, but it's hard. It was hard.
I don't think it's that much different.
I don't know.
We both spoke English.
Yeah, but these kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, no. Between me and you, it's not much different.
You're right.
Yeah.
But
No,
today,
nowadays, blows my. You can call your mom every day. I was like,
come on, man.
Isn't
like,
the point?
That was kind of part of it.
Exactly. It's a big part of
We
it.
talk 4 times a year,
Yeah.
right? I mean, look, I don't want, obviously the church had to do what they did to keep guys and girls out. Let's be honest. I mean, that's what they had to do. And it was inspired, I'm sure, and it's good for these kids and it's different. But man, no social media, no TV. Dude, like, put it this way. I'm a huge sports guy. You probably know that about me. Like, that's my life.
Yeah.
The 2 years I was gone, the 2 years the Jazz were in the finals. Okay. Now I'm a BYU guy, but the 2 years the Utes were in the national championship for basketball, semifinals, national championship for basketball. That same year, that was the same time BYU finished number 5 in the country, went 14-1 at the time, had the most wins I was gone then.
Yeah.
I'm a Bronco fan. The 2 years that Elway wins the Super Bowl. That all happened. I was on my mission. I didn't know any of it.
Good.
The way I found out, like literally, I didn't have no idea the Jazz were doing so well. I'm, knocking doors back then when,
Yeah.
And the guys, oh, you Mormon, you from Utah? Yeah. Oh, the Jazz beat the Bulls last night. They're going to play. I'm like, what? We're in the finals?
They're all invite
That's
me.
how I found out, right?
Invite me to dinner. Just have it on in the background.
But we didn't know. We didn't have that stuff.
Yeah.
We didn't have TV. We didn't have anything.
Yeah, and we didn't either.
Radio, newspaper was the only way to find out stuff back then. Internet was it was dial up. And
Yeah.
I remember one of my companions got approval to have a computer and to email, and we started emailing. We were the only companionship in the whole mission that could email because he's the only one that had a computer.
Yeah.
And we dialed up, pulled in the phone line, and on P-Day emailed our families.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You got to be in your 40s to understand what that sound means.
I know, right?
Dude, I still remember signing up for AOL. Remember that? You put the disc in the freaking computer and it like... In fact, I think we had to, if I remember right, didn't we have to get like a separate line in your house? One for the internet, one for your phone?
Well, if you wanted to not tie up your phone line.
Right, yeah.
In fact, our mission president actually shut us down because I didn't know it, but back then, phone lines, you got charged for gigs or whatever you were using.
data,
It wasn't even a gig back then, but whatever it was. And our phone bill was like $1,000 because no one had internet back then, right?
Yeah.
And so it was like, okay, you're done. No more of the emails because that internet's pulling up all that. It was just email. That was all it was.
Yeah, we were able to email for about 2 months, if I remember right, and then one of the missionaries got in trouble on a computer. So,
but see, you think about it, you're just it shows you how technology's grown. You're only 3 years younger than me, but that 3 years made all the difference in the world for that internet, right?
Well, and honestly, 3 years after me, that's all they did. They didn't even write letters anymore.
It was all emails.
It was all emails, yeah.
And that was part of the fun. Our P days was Wednesday, and it was like, hey, sometimes we get them on P days if they came from the office. If not, it was lunchtime. That was.
See, we had a slot in the door that had a metal on both sides, little metal, whatever, like tickers, right? So they put it in, you'd hear it go, and then
so you heard that,
and a crash on the floor, right? And you're just like,
well, and on P day or on lunch, that was the thing too. A lot of times we'd figure out when mail was coming, and we'd schedule our lunches.
Oh, until you got it, yeah.
All right, then so we can go home and read our letter. I mean, it was what you looked forward to.
Yeah, I think they started doing the mail at like 3:00 in the morning in Scotland. So like, we left our houses by 9:30. I think every day is when we had to be out, something like that. And so we had always hit between 8 and 9 almost every morning. So we were always
so you were
in the
always
house.
In the mornings.
Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect.
So it's cool. Yeah.
That's really cool.
And you get 4 missionaries in a house, man. You get that dump, and it's just like, hey, one for you, one for you, one
that's
for you,
really cool.
none for you.
Is that how yours was? Mostly 4s. They
Yeah.
quiet.
Well, so when I first got there, they had 6 in a house.
That's really cool.
And then it was wild. So
That would be fun.
by 6 months in, they had moved us all out to just 2s, which.
That's how our home mission was that way. We didn't have anything more now, but that'd be fun. That's part of fun though.
Oh yeah. Well, so in my mission, we played a lot of soccer, right? So you'd play soccer like every P day generally, sometimes on Friday and every Saturday, right? And it was probably our best tool to get people to connect with us, really.
Just
right?
go out and hang out with them.
Yeah, knocking doors in Scotland is inefficient. We always joked it took 1,400 doors before someone would be nice to you, not let you in, be nice to you. So
I think that's one nice thing about the way things have changed. They don't even not do that anymore. I don't think the missionaries even proselyte anymore at all. I think it's all in other directions. Yeah, I don't think they knock doors at all. As far as I know, from what I understand, they don't knock doors. My son never did.
Here's a funny thing, right? So I within the last year, because time for me doesn't really exist, but like we were talking about all the things I would change if I was a mission president, right? And I'd take every missionary that was lazy and didn't want to knock doors, and they'd be doing service every day. And then I'd have 2 PR guys in the mission, right, that were just getting the news to watch us, right? So we'd go re-roof someone's church, right, or whatever, and it would just be every single day this like marketing campaign. And then I'd take all the athletes, right? So say I was in Scotland, I would run basketball camps every single day. We did that a couple of times in my last area, and I'm telling you, we got
ever, huh?
50, 60 kids come and hang out with us.
I think that's one thing that's good about the evolving, or the church or missions have evolved a little bit. I think that they're doing more of that. Like when we went, it was so stringent, and it was like, now it's like whatever
numbers
works. And I think that's, to your point, so my son, it was really cool. His first companion, so he was a Division I football player. His companion was a Division I baseball player.
Oh, cool.
Okay. So how often do you have 2 Division I companionships? And that's a rare companionship,
Super
right?
rare.
And keep in mind, this is during the pandemic, so they weren't really doing a whole lot. Well, somehow they connected with the local high school, and it wasn't regular baseball season, but it was like the automotive or whatever you want to call it, Super League, whatever it's called.
Where was he, by the way?
Arkansas.
Arkansas, cool.
And so basically, they were the high school coaches.
Oh, really?
So literally every day, they went to the high school, and they played baseball with these kids.
It's a no-brainer.
And Talmadge today, even today, he's been home for 3 years. He still texts with some of the athletes that he has, some of the high school athletes.
Oh, that's cool.
What a connection.
Right. Actual friendships.
Right. And something that they look, these missionaries, they may not have taught them the gospel, but what an impact they had on these boys. And these boys will never forget these 2. Because look, you know how it is. If you're in high school, if you got 2 Division I athletes, like they're gods, whether they are or not, like they think that, right?
Yeah.
And so they look up to these kids, and so whatever they tell them, say, hey, you should do this. Okay, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty powerful.
And you're leaving lasting legacy on those people. Take it to the business side, right? It's exactly what you want. You want your brand. You want people to recognize your brand and go, oh, those are good dudes.
Yep.
That's it.
Totally agree.
You know, because then the door is open when people
Love
think
it.
you're a good dude.
Love it.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I'm good. I'm glad for
kind
him.
of a tangent there, but that's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, any other kids going on missions?
Nope. So my second son didn't go. He just not able to, like, too much anxiety. Great kid.
Yeah.
Probably one of my best kids. Just too much anxiety. Just not something that he can do.
Let me ask you about that, if you don't mind.
No, let's talk.
So, why?
Why what?
Why does he have anxiety?
I don't know, man. It's in our family.
Because it's pretty. Oh, okay. Because it's pretty prevalent with that age group, though, right?
Way so. But our family has a long history of depression, anxiety. Like, I'm probably one of the only, like, I'm very lucky or blessed that I'm not that way, but most of my family's that way, like a lot. And he unfortunately got that gene. So, good kid, great athlete. Could have played football in college. Got offers, just wasn't his deal. But just, I don't know. He's battles through it, and I'll give the kid some credit, man. He fights harder than anybody I've ever seen fight through it. Like, he wants it, he hates it, and he tries. He just struggles, like. But then it's funny because you get him in an environment and that he's comfortable in, and he's like, nothing. It's like, no problem. It's like it goes. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think you ever grow out of it, but I think you learn and learn skills and coping mechanisms, and I hope he can get through that. So he's actually a junior in college too.
Oh, cool.
So or just finishing his junior year. So that the two oldest, then the third.
Are they at the same college or are they different?
No. So Talmadge is at Southern Utah. Caden's at Snow. So that second one's down at Snow. Even though I know it sounds funny, he's a junior at Snow. He's in a computer science program. It's a 4-year degree down there. So he's able to.
Oh, is it mostly just?
It's a junior college. So Snow's just a JUCO, so just a 2-year college. But so he's in the whatever program that's a 4-year school. So it's really cool. He's going to get his degree. And I don't know why he chose that school, but Ephraim's a great place to go to school.
Yeah. That's only an hour and a half from home?
Hour 45 minutes. And my mom was born and raised in Ephraim. So
okay.
it's kind of that. It's awesome. Yeah. But so that's kind of his deal. And then my daughter's she was 100% going to go on a mission. Then she met this kid, and so we'll see.
There you go.
They've been dating for about a year.
Love will keep us alive.
She keeps saying she's going to get married, but like to her credit, like they know how expensive crap is, and so she's working 3 jobs this summer. She told me so that she can start making some money so they can save. And I think she wants to get married. He's a good kid. He plays baseball in college right now too, so we'll see where that takes him. But
is he integrated in the family pretty good, or?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard because she's in school and he's in school, so we don't necessarily see him a lot. But you know, the few things, Christmas time, you know, he's a good kid. He fits.
Yeah.
She'll never, I don't want to ever tell her that, but
till the deal's done, right?
Yeah. Well, part of me is, and I don't know, that's an interesting skill. And you're going to learn that a little bit sooner than later. It's hard because, especially with daughters, it's like, is this just another boyfriend?
Right.
Or is this the one? And like, I don't mind being friendly and hanging out and being bros with a guy, but I don't want to invest until I know. Does that make sense?
100%.
So when there's a ring on the finger, then it'll be different, and I'll react different. But right now, it's just another boyfriend, and so I haven't.
Yeah, I got it. I'll tell you something funny I'm doing. You'll love this. I've been, I don't know what you want to call it, manipulating my kids or influencing them, whatever you want to call it, since they were born, right? So even when they couldn't speak, right, I talked to them about like never doing drugs, right? And like, you know, like being a good person and being honest. And like, if you ask my kids what's the number one rule in the house, is just being honest, you know? And I've tried to break it down to them to be like, listen guys, the reason why you need to be honest, it doesn't mean you're not going to get in trouble, right? There's always a consequence to your action, good or bad, right? But don't compound a problem by lying about it. And then I'd give them a million examples, right? I'm like, because then you're going to lie to me and I'm on your corner, right? Then I'm going to learn that you're a liar. Then I can't trust everything that you say. And then I'm trying to help navigate you out of a situation. You're making it worse.
Yep.
And I don't know why or how. And they're like, oh, you know, they get it, I think. We'll never know till like 25, right? But like, I think they get it. So my point though is with my daughters, I've been telling them, I even did it like the other night. I'm like, hey, just make sure that when you start dating someone serious, you let dad have an opinion about it. And they'll be like, you know, they're young enough now to be like, oh, okay, you know. And I'm like, listen. So I was talking to Brea, she's 14. And I was like, hey, listen, whoever you marry is up to you, right? At the end of the day, if you pick them, and I don't care, even if I don't like them, right, I will bring that guy into the fold and I will be the kindest person because you've chosen them. And I trust who you're going to choose. I trust you. And they're like, okay. And I go, but you'd be very wise to allow me to have an opinion, because if you get Twitter pated by somebody, and I know this is a dude that you shouldn't be married to, you should allow space for me to say, get rid of this one.
Love that.
And they're like, of course, now they all agree, right? So now I just keep that in their head.
That's really powerful.
Until they hit about 19, 20.
You know what's really cool about that, Mark, that if you got that relationship with, it took time to get that relationship right and to build that. But if you can have that, so powerful.
Yeah, exactly, right?
And I'm going to tell you, like, from my perspective, when she hit 16, hold on, baby.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Adelaide's my daughter. She's amazing. But her high school years were rough to a degree.
Were they?
That's not fair to say. Not rough. But we had to learn, and I think we're still learning, kind of how to understand each other a little bit more. She's an amazing, amazing, amazing individual. One of the hardest working people I've ever met. An elite dancer, could dance anywhere in college if she wanted to. She's just, it's difficult. And I think going back to, I wish I would have done things earlier.
Yeah.
Having that relationship is such a key.
Yeah. No, absolutely, right?
Going back to the original conversation we had
about
when you're up with the man above and was I a good person? Man, what our number one job right now is to be a dad.
Yep.
And to be a provider, of course. I mean, that's part of it.
That's part of it.
But to be a dad and to be a good influence and teach. And when you can do that and you get that relationship with you,
see, and I have
real power.
I love that you're saying that, because, like, my men's group, right? I've been with a couple of guys, right? And some of them have been paralyzed by their own analysis with their kids, and they've kind of retracted, and they'll bring it up, right? We do like what we call masterminds, little mini masterminds with like 8 of us. There's 50 guys in the group, so we'll be in a house. There'll be 8 groups of 8 everywhere, and everyone gets to bring up a problem, and everyone else can kind of give their opinion, and then after 12 minutes goes to the next guy, right? And there's a couple times I've gotten really passionate, and it kind of came out of nowhere, and I was like, guys, you are live with your kids. You don't have time to be depressed. You don't have time to be a dipshit, basically, right?
Amen.
You are live. And they're like, yeah, man, yeah. I'm like, get it wrong and then apologize and pivot. It doesn't matter. Don't sit there and not know how to communicate with your 14-year-old. You are just burning time. And then you're actually creating a valley, right, between you and that kid.
Yep. And that's honestly, that happened a little bit with me and Adelaide. And it was my fault. Yeah. And I'm working on it. But you're right. We don't have time. It goes like that. Bro, my baby's 17. A year from now, he'll be going on his mission. And I'm like literally a year from now, my baby will have a mission call and gone. I mean, a year and 3 months from now, he'll be gone. And then just like that, 4 kids to nobody in the house.
That's wild.
And it's crazy. And I'm not that old. Yeah. By the time I'm 50, literally, my baby will be home from a mission.
Yeah.
And like, that's like how?
How long have you been married?
So 25 years and 2 weeks.
Very cool.
Believe that?
Very cool. Yeah.
So I was a typical guy. Graduated, and I had a fall birthday. So, when we served missions, it had to be when you turn 19. So fall birthday. So I went right away. Mm-hmm. Got home in November and went down to school in January, and I met Marianne in January. And I don't know if you know this about us. You may not know this part of the story, but I dabbled with cheering my senior year. I kind of started doing that on the competitive team and loved it and kind of fell in love with cheerleading. I know that sounds funny, but
okay, yeah.
Well, and she was a gymnast and cheerleader her whole life. So anyway, she was on the cheer squad, and I called the cheer coach, said, hey, just going from a mission. I did a little of this in high school. Do you have a spot? And, yeah, well, maybe. Come to practice, we'll see what you can do. So anyway, long story short, ended up cheering and met her the first day of cheer practice of the first day of the semester in January. So we met in January, and we were married in May.
Nice.
So, typical more of a missionary.
I'm not that far
right?
off, to be honest.
Yeah.
So we've been married 20 years in June. So
close.
Yeah, close. And so, and I got home from my mission in December. I'm also a fall birthday. And I knew my wife in high school. I knew Michelle in high school.
Okay.
I knew of her, but then about a year after I got home, about 10 months later, a mutual friend hooked us up on a double date with him, and literally fell in love that night.
That's so cool.
I have the soulmate story, and I don't even believe in soulmates. It just happened, right? And so we got engaged on Valentine's Day, married in June. And
so you're real similar. You're
never
real
look
similar
back.
to us. You're right. You're right there with
I
us.
think the only difference, I think we waited a little bit longer to have kids. You guys must have had them in the first couple of years.
Yeah, really quick. I mean,
Yeah.
she was pregnant, I think, 6 or 7 months after we were married.
Okay.
So,
there you go.
real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she's 2 years younger than me. So I think we were thinking about it the other day because Talma just 23. By the time she was 23, she had 2 kids.
Really? Yeah.
Like, all right, let's go, son. I want
Was
some
she
grandkids.
was she 19 when you got married?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Michelle was 20.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
real close. Real similar.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's cool. Like it's, 25 years. We've been married a long time and things are great. And
Dude, I'm telling you correct that 20 nowadays, it's rare.
I know, right?
It's getting really rare. Yeah.
Things are definitely different.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. Things are different, good and bad. But when it was kind of what we did, right? We got married young and what's kind of fun too is that we were able to, when we were in school, so that was at Snow. And so we ended up cheering. She ended up, because she got pregnant, she ended up just being a coach, but it was cool. The first couple of years of our marriage, we were cheerleaders together.
Yeah.
And we had a great time. We got to travel all over and do all these fun things and be a college. It was fun.
I'll tell you, I got to tell you a funny joke that was cracked when I was in Africa, right? So 2 of the guys that were there's only 23 of us, right? Both of them cheered in high school.
What?
And one of them cheered for the Jazz. And where did Blake cheer? Did he go? He might have been professional too, to be honest. I don't really remember, right? So Brian, the one that cheered for the Jazz, he's about your age, about 46, right? 45,
What's his name?
46.
Brian what?
Brian Pitcher.
Oh, I know who he is.
Do you know
crazy.
Brian?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're
I
gonna
know
love it.
of
You're
him.
gonna love this joke even more, right? So we're going around the circle the first night. There's a couple new guys, right? And there's like different groups, and so guys are from different groups. So they're just making sure everyone knows each other and kind of connect, right? So everyone's telling something about themselves. And so it's going around the circle, and Blake, one of the cheerleader guys don't know this about me. I was actually a cheerleader in college, or whatever he said, right? We're like, oh, that's cool, bro. Yeah, awesome, And he goes to Brian Pitcher, and Jimmy jumps in and goes, yeah, Brian. I already know Brian's. Because Brian was a flyer in high school. And dude, I started cracking up so freaking, I couldn't stop giggling. Because I could just picture him just flying through the air, doing the whole thing. And then the whole group was just laughing our butts off.
That's awesome.
It was fun. Yeah.
That was one of the greatest times of my life. I loved it. I learned so much doing cheer. I missed it. It was so fun. But it was the competition. It was
I'll tell you,
out.
you guys are strong.
Well,
cheerleaders are freaking strong.
Well, and that's what I love. Like literally, like we lifted with the football team because at Snow they didn't have a huge time, so we were at the same time as the football players. Yeah. And every one of us guys were lifting the same thing as the football players. Like I'm not this big guy, but like we hung with them, right? Yeah. And we were in good shape. I was in the best. I say all the time, I was in the best shape of my life when I was cheering.
Absolutely.
Because you think about it, you're essentially you had a 2-hour cheer practice and an hour weight session, so you're lifting weights essentially for 3 hours.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're in good shape. That was a long time ago.
I freaking love that.
A lot of weight different, but it was fun. Yeah. It was a good time.
Yeah, I'm glad you did that. Why not? Say yes to stuff. That's kind of my rule in life. Just say yes to everything.
And then honestly, my 2 older boys, both great athletes in high school. Obviously, college football players, all the above, and they both cheered in high school too. Just the competition squad. They got talked into doing the competition team, and so they did that too. Both of them.
Well, if you actually want to throw a flyer around, you get a couple of football players. Not a bad plan.
Well, and that's what they did. Basically, what they did is they went and recruited all, and it was literally every single cheerleader was football players.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think my son's senior year, like 4 of the guys all played in college.
Yeah,
football in college, and so like you get these 4 dudes like on the cheer squad. It was fun.
Oh, good for them.
That was funny. I didn't know that. Yeah. Anyway.
So we're kind of at the end of the podcast here. So I'm going to ask for your advice like I do with everybody, right? But I actually want you to give marriage advice.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Okay.
And just go on as long as you want.
It's evolved for me. I think I had an amazing wife. I guess that's first advice. Marry someone way, way, way above you. And I'm not talking about looks because all that's superficial. It matters. You got to be attracted to who you're married to. But it matters because they got to put up with you. I'm very, very fortunate in that Marianne is one of the most humble, Christ-like people I've ever met, in that she does not put herself above anybody else. And that sounds funny, but find someone like that. It's allowed me to be able to grow the business that I am. I mean, things are well now and I've got a lot of freedom, but when it's a grind. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of 80-hour weeks, 90-hour weeks. There was a lot of times when I was going to school and working that we didn't see each other except for Sundays.
Yeah.
So you got to marry someone that's willing to put up with that. And so I guess that'd be the first thing is find someone like that. And then
I'm going to add one thing to that. I know it's
Please.
your advice.
No, go ahead.
Guys, find someone like that, and women, be someone like that.
Yes. Please. I'm glad you brought that up because, look, it isn't a sexist thing, but shoot me if you want, but there are roles. Mothers and fathers are different. They're equal, but they're different, and they have different roles.
Yep.
And it's important to do that. And maybe that's the other part of marriage is find your role and do that. And if possible, mom's role is to be home with the kids. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe that's sexist, fine. Call me sexist, but if it's possible, be home with the kids. Because there's things that moms can do in the homes that you can't. And maybe that's another thing in marriage is find someone that wants that.
Yeah.
Or if you don't want that, that's okay. But if you want that, find someone.
Yeah, because part of that, right, is what you're really saying is find someone that has like goals as you.
Maybe that's
right?
what I'm saying.
Yeah, if you want a stay-at-home wife to raise your kids and that's what you want, then go find a woman that wants that as well.
Yes.
And if you don't want that, then go find a woman that doesn't want it either, wants to, two career people. It's absolutely your life. Do whatever the freak you want.
And both are okay. Look, I need to be clear on that. They're both okay. But for me, I wanted a mom home with my kids so that mom could raise the kids. And so I think, anyway, going on a tangent, but I think that's important to find someone that does that and then treat them like a queen. Mm-hmm. I'm old school. I open my door for my wife. And I think we still do that. I think that shows who we are as men. It's not a sexist thing. It's a respect thing. I respect my wife. I'm grateful that she's the mother of my kids. I love her. I'm going to open the door for her. And be there for her, treat her right, and provide. And I think if you do those things, I think everything else kind of works itself out. Yeah. I also think you grow up, and as you mature and grow, one thing I've been not good at, and I'm getting better at, is listening to her and what she wants. This sounds stupid, but we were just talking. It was a total joke, but not really. She sent me this Instagram meme about the other day about, hey, for a healthy marriage, you need to kiss for 6 seconds.
I've heard that.
So it was just like 3 days ago. So like, okay, kissing her goodbye. It was like kind of in my head, I'm counting. She goes, that was 4 seconds, not 6. Joking.
I'm in a hurry.
But little stuff like that matters.
Yeah.
It matters to her. So because it matters to her, it needs to matter to me.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question.
No, absolutely.
But I think that's important in marriage is what it's all about. I mean, 25 years is not something small, right? It's not 50, but 25 is good, especially today. Yeah. I think the real key is just marry above you.
Yeah.
Because Marianne is way, way above me in so many aspects and so patient and so kind. And I don't deserve that.
I'll tell you, I gave a speech at my wife's 40th birthday, right? We had kind of all of her friends there and this kind of through this decent sized party. And as I was speaking, I said, Michelle's the greatest investment I've ever made. And, I talk a lot of business stuff, right? And it was really cool because I could see people kind of go, oh, an investment. And then like they thought about it for about 2 seconds and they're like, oh, like he's right.
I love it.
Am right.
I love that.
When I met her, when I fell in love with her the first night, we were on her doorstep, right? And I just remember looking at her and I'm like, don't kiss her right now because I wanted to, because she's your wife. Don't kiss your wife on the first night, like some arbitrary rule I made up in my head on the spot, right? So I didn't. And I remember like driving away from her house and I'm like, dude, I'm going to marry this chick. Like, she's just the one. And I just, from then on out, I'm like, I didn't realize it, but it's like, dude, I picked this girl to be the mother of my children, to be my partner in business, to be my partner in life. When I need help, I go to her. When she needs help, she goes to me, right? And I'm like so proud that it's the best investment I've ever made.
I love it.
It's just kind of how I feel about it.
I've never thought of it that way, but you're so dead on. And that's powerful. Yeah. And it's real.
Yeah.
and you know what? Truthfully, I think that we need to do a better job of this as husbands, and maybe wives do a better job for their husbands, is we need to look at our spouse that way. Yeah. We need to invest more in them. I mean, you think about all the time and effort you put in your businesses, and for me in my business, and your kids, do we put that same investment in our spouse? And as you're saying, I'm thinking about this. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I am. Yeah. And I need to. And then, the other thing too, to think about that from this perspective is look at it like I was saying, a year from now, I'm an empty nester to a degree, right? I mean,
absolutely.
I better have a good relationship with my wife because we no longer have the kids to talk about or go do sports things or do all these things. So we better have a good relationship or it's going to be really awkward in about 2 years from now. Yeah.
You can only golf so much.
Anyway, love that. I think it's good. Man, that's such a powerful statement. Invest So see, I was supposed to give advice. I'm taking your advice.
My bad.
Invest in your spouse.
Yeah.
So
and it's an emotional investment, right? For anyone listening to this, right? You're emotionally investing.
Amen. We've kind of rambled on a whole bunch of things today, but I think that the big thing for me, maybe that I want people to know about me is that my family, of course your extended family, but specifically the Tim Brown Jr. family is the most important thing to me in the world. There's nothing else that matters. Yeah. My wife and my children are the everything. Work is there, friends are there, golf's there, football, all those things are fun, but the family is everything.
Yeah.
And if you can live and do what you need to do for that, that's when you've hit a home run.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
Love it.
Well, thanks, Tim. Thanks for coming on.
Hey.
I'm excited to share this with the neighborhood, dude. We're going to get 90 new listeners.
Hey, I love it, man. I think that what you're doing is great. Keep doing it. This is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Love it.
Thanks for listening to the President McCormack Podcast, brought to you by McCormack Foundation, Saxton Fund, ADP Lemco, and Professional Floor Systems. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and keep up with Mark on Instagram @President McCormack.